Finding a good scarf can be super challenging. Some scarves are simply too thin and they're not warm at all, whereas other scarves are thick and they're bulky and they're itchy and they're scratchy and they're just cumbersome and annoying to wear. Furthermore, you have to find a good color wave. Some scarves have the brand logo for the brand emblazoned everywhere, and they're a little bit over the top, especially for work. Other scarves are simply this beige milieu of boringness, and they're not at all interesting. Hence why we need to talk about the Loewe Anagram scarf. Now, Loewe is a Spanish company owned within the LVMH group. The Anagram scarf is one of the many scarves that they offer. It has the Anagram, logo or design for Loewe all throughout it. But because it doesn't say Loewe, or have Loewe kind of spelt out in some form, like the LV scarves do, it's a little bit less over the top. It's also a wool cashmere blend, so it's reasonably thin and not too bulky, while still being warm. So in terms of the dimensions, it's 180 centimeters long, or about 71 inches, and 40 centimeters wide, or about 15.7 inches. So it's reasonably sizable without being too bulky. So with that in mind, let's dig a little bit deeper into this Anagram scarf and see exactly what it is like. So I've got a scarf here in a Loewe carry bag. Now it's kind of in a Christmassy color, being red, but obviously they'll change their colors throughout the year, and they are clearly advertising one of their other products, being, a rather lovely bowl, Now, I've already removed the paper from the scarf, so you don't need to listen to that crinkling in the microphone kind of driving you insane. So if you take the scarf out of the bag, you can see, wow, it's a scarf that I've already kind of mangled in taking it out. And in any case, what you've got here is this Anagram scarf in a greeny-brown color wave. Now, as I've indicated, there are 4 color waves they've got. You've got the tan one, a greeny-brown one, kind of more of a bluey-brown one, and then more of a charcoal one. Which one you choose depends on exactly which type you'd want to wear and what you're wearing it with, but in any case, you've got options there. Now, if you look at exactly what is on this scarf, you've basically got the Anagram pattern. The Anagram pattern is kind of what Loewe does for its patterning, and you've got 3 blocks going horizontally across the scarf here. So 3 blocks in different colors. And you've kind of got this checkerboard pattern on the scarf, which adds a little bit of interest to the scarf while you're kind of wearing it. It's interesting enough to look at. The other plus side of the Anagram is the Anagram isn't too obviously a logo. Now, obviously, if you're kind of following Loewe or something, you kind of know it's a logo, but it's not quite as obvious as, say, LV, where LV just kind of puts LV there, and then everyone kind of knows it's Louis Vuitton. So if you're going into a workplace, you don't necessarily want brand names kind of sitting in everyone's face, looking super obvious, then maybe the Loewe scarf is a little bit more subtle. Now again, in particular, because of the colors that it comes in, it's a little bit more subtle without being too boring. Now, if we're looking at the scarf itself, in terms of the width, 40 centimeters or 15.7 inches across. It's 180 centimeters long, so it definitely is long enough to be able to wrap around. Furthermore, if we look at the cross section going across, so we look at actually how high it isn't that high. It's really quite thin, but because it's wool cashmere, it's quite warm for that, density of it, which means that it's not going to feel too bulky and cumbersome when you're wearing it throughout the day. In particular, when you look at how smooth the material is. So because it's wool cashmere, it's quite smooth. This compares to some lower grade wools. Now, wool can be a brilliant product. I wear wool suits. I really love wool as a material. However, some wool scarves are too thick and not put together very well, and they can just be really annoying to wear. Now, like I said, wool can be a brilliant product, but you just need to analyze each individual scarf on its merits as to whether that wool scarf is actually going to be good. In any case, the wool cashmere ones are generally a little bit less bulky, and they can often be warm and smooth at the same time. Now, if we look at the end of the scarf, it has little tassels on it, nothing terribly surprising or unusual there. Now, what you can see here is we've got this scarf, you can kind of put it on in several ways. So you can do it in a really quick way if you've got gloves on, so say you're kind of out in the snow, and you just need to put it on when you've got like thick ski gloves or mittens on. You can put it on like I've got here. You just kind of wrap it around your neck. Now that works. It's going to be warm enough. It's not so bulky that you can't breathe. It's not so bulky that it just kind of rises up over your head. It just sits here. Now, admittedly, your mileage will vary depending on your neck, your head dimensions, and the like, but I find that it sits here well. Now, just in this position, Like I've said before, it's quite smooth. And by being smooth, it can just sit here, in the cold, for however long it is that you're going to be sitting here. Now, granted, I'm actually filming this in Sydney at the moment, which is quite warm. So really, this jumper and this scarf are not brilliant in the current temperature. But if you're in the Northern Hemisphere right now, for example, in the United States, it would be actually quite nice to just sit here with a scarf on. Also, if you're in a heavily air-conditioned office, where the aircon is far too low, or there's problems with the aircon, or it just keeps malfunctioning, then obviously being able to sit there with a scarf for a long time is going to be great. So here I just wrapped it around my neck. You could also wear it in whichever way you prefer to wear a scarf. So if you want to do it up kind of cravat-like, you could also do that. And I'll just kind of put that on right here, where I've done it up really quickly like a cravat. And that, again, sort of works. Now, I'm doing it up while speaking, so obviously the knot is going to be a little bit ugly, but you get what I mean here. It sort of kind of folds in, it does its job kind of tie-like, sitting around your neck, keeping you warm. Now, the question, of course, is what else might this scarf go with? So throughout this video, I had been wearing a dark blue polo bear jumper. However, it can also go with work attire, depending upon exactly which anagram scarf you get and the color of what you are wearing. So at the moment, I have sort of a dark grey suit jacket on and a white shirt, and the scarf goes to some extent with that color. You can also wear it with a blue jacket, which I have now changed into. But again, you probably want to do the knot up a little bit better than I've done right here. It's kind of bulky and it's not really working, but that's what you get when you are talking while doing up the knot. But like I said, it works okay. But you might want to consider different color waves if you're really going to be wearing within a work setting as opposed to more casually. But still, it's a pretty versatile scarf that can fit quite a few different situations. We can also compare this to another scarf. So what I've got here is a Burberry scarf. Now this Burberry scarf has like the Burberry check on it. And you can see here that it is a much thicker and a much coarser material. That is, a much more woolly material. Now there is a place for having a really woolly scarf, like in a really cold environment, or maybe you just want that aesthetically for whatever it is you're wearing, or you just kind of like that feel. Certainly there can be a place for a woolly, thick scarf, and I like the Burberry scarf here. The problem, of course, with Burberry is there's so many knockoffs that actually telling whether it's Burberry or not is a challenge sometimes. But in any case, the Burberry scarf is nice, but it is a much thicker material, and therefore it's going to feel very different when you're wearing it. And it's going to be less apt to being wrapped around your neck, given the thickness of it. And it's going to be less flexible to wearing collars and the like. And it's also going to be a little bit more noticeable sometimes. That is, people will see a check and think, oh, maybe it's Burberry. Whereas I think the Loewe Anagram is a little bit less in your face. So I really like the Loewe Anagram scarf. I think it's one that you should certainly consider. Price point wise, it isn't that bad. Price point wise, it's certainly cheaper than the Louis Vuitton scarves. It can be cheaper than some of the Burberry scarves, but I prefer it to those. It's probably a little bit more expensive than some of the Ferragamo scarves. So you're sort of looking at that normal luxury scarf level without going too over the top. And it certainly works for my purposes. Now, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on scarf recommendations, your thoughts on Loewe as a brand, and your thoughts about whether or not there are other scarves that might be great alternatives. So let me know what you think in the comments below. But otherwise, thanks a lot for tuning in, and hopefully I see you for future videos as well.